I ended up practicing some songs for another hour or so to see what my new voice could do, before June threw a pillow to shut me up. But while I couldn't mimic all voices, I had a pretty large range, and so some songs I could even sing in character. It was fun. But since June was going to sleep, I settled in to do more programming through the night. Like all programmers, I ended up going out and getting some coffee and then piling the coffee table full of old cups as I worked on the keyboard. "Motoko, did you even sleep?" June asked as he shuffles out of his room that morning. "Not yet. I'll take a nap in a bit," I told him, which wasn't untrue. A good 8 hours would soon be on the horizon, meaning I would be at 100% for the gig. "Well, make sure you sleep. You said you were going out on that gig." "I can come." We denied. "This is a Motoko crew only thing. It's gonna be a milk run, June, just some scavs that need to be exterminated," I told him, throwing a thumbs up towards him without looking away from the screen. "Plus if anything goes wrong, Ichi, Hiromi, and Malcolm will be there as backup." "Didn't Hiromi crash her by?" "June, you can't repeat that. I told you that in confidence," I hissed at him, pointing. "Besides, Hiromi is like the fixer for this job. She's going to be contacting buyers for the loot, so she doesn't have to fight." "I wish you wouldn't pull this shit. But you do have the skill. Take some extra firepower at least. For your tombs or something." "Oh, that's a good idea. I'll grab some stuff and bring it along. Too bad my HMG was still in rough shape. I really needed to fix that thing." "All right," he sighed, "I can't stick around. Call or text me when the gig starts, and then when it's over. If it takes too long, I'll be coming." Okay. I'll let you know. Now get out of here. You got work?" "Just some stuff with Sensei today. We are removing all the stuff the TC put into the dojo." I blinked before remembering the underground room full of tech, and the Ripper room. I guess it made sense. The place was basically the CNC for the kamikaze. Pulling it out now that it wasn't in use, and clearing up Sensei's dojo made sense. "All right, drive safe," I called out, only getting a grumble in return. I was back to working on Ping, trying to get my little addition working when it happened. Intelligence leveled up. I blinked. Level 7. Yes. I cheered as the level up came in. I guess all my programming had finally given me an upgrade. I settled back down, and I did actually notice a difference as I worked. I hadn't been able to really notice a difference between intelligence levels before, but this time since I was programming before and after, I could pick out the differences. It wasn't that I was just smarter, but I did process information faster. I could look at a cluster of code and process through it that bit faster than I had before. The numbers were able to be calculated just that little bit faster. It was nice. But I pushed that aside. It didn't really change anything, just made it a little bit easier. So I spent the next hour or so debugging the code. It would work. It was messy. It wasn't clean. But it would make Ping a little bit harder to track if I used it on a network. Stretching out, I uploaded the completed program into my cyberdeck and shut the laptop down. Time for a nap. You all look great, I told the crew as we met up. We were all meeting up at Hiromi's apartment complex. Funnily enough, the security there meant that it was actually pretty safe to gather together in our armored clothes before the gig. Sure, there were cameras, but if you knew anything about Night City, you knew that anyone in a corp isn't going to want records of their coming and going. So the garage was pretty safe. We all met up around Ichi's truck. I was the last to show up, much to my embarrassment. Thankfully Hiromi distracted me from being late. "What's with your mask, Motoko?" Hiromi asked, and I smiled as the bottom of my face was covered in a cloth ninja mask. I was pulling a Kakashi. "I'm a ninja, Hiromi. 9-inch nails, 9-inch nails," I told her happily. 9-inch nails, 9-inch nails? What the fuck is that? Malcolm asked, just confused, and so was everyone else. "And 3/4 of you call yourself Japanese?" Disappointed. I tell them all frankly. Now enough about my amazing ninja outfit. Let's go over the plan again, I said, grabbing everyone's attention. I had planned this last night. I had wanted to mess with my friends to work off some of the anxiety. So I coughed lightly into my fist, altering my voice to my sexy Motoko. Attention Section 9. Mission brief begins now. And then I stood there enjoying the lovely chaos. Hiromi's jaw dropped. Malcolm looked utterly confused, looking around as if wondering what the hell was going on. Ichi had a flush crawling up his neck to his ears as she stared at me. "Oh, cat got your tongues?" I mocked a little, putting a hand on my hip and cocking it a bit. "I suppose I'll have Hiromi." "Muotoko, did you get a voice changer? Your new voice is so sexy. Amazing," Hiromi called out after tackling me, nearly knocking me on my ass as I had to spin her a bit to bleed off her momentum. "It's certainly mature," Ichi offered. "Is Motoko fucking with us?" Malcolm added. "I'm not fucking with you," I offered to Malcolm, and I got to enjoy the way his face got a little flushed too as I threw him a wink. "I've never heard that voice before. It's pretty good. What's it called?" Ichi asked a little too calmly. "Well, fortunately for me, it's not a voice changer." I pulled down my ninja mask showing my uncromed neck. "I just learned how to change my voice a little. It's mostly in the chest, breathing differently, to make me a bit deeper and huskier," I offered with a casual shrug. "Once you knew the trick, it really was pretty easy." My answer did not in fact calm things. I ignored the many questions from my chums as I coughed into my fist. "Let's all settle down now. We have a gig to do, don't we, Malcolm?" "Ichi, everything settled with the truck?" I prompted, cutting through the many questions, and my voice did grab attention. Yeah, I messed with the license plate. As long as we don't run past any NCPD we'll be fine, and any recordings will have the wrong plate." "Excellent. Malcolm, you got the equipment loaded?" "Yep," he said, staring a bit but shaking it off. "The trolleys and loading tools are all in there ready for us." "Hiromi, ready for boredom?" "Yes. I mean no?" she asked, looking a little frazzled as she was still hugging me. I smiled at her, and patted her on the head. "Good job," I told her and turned towards my car. "I have some extra weapons if anyone wants something with a bit more kick. I doubt we will need them, but I would rather you have them just in case," I called out as I pulled away from a suddenly limp Hiromi. Yeah, I'll take something. I only have my normal iron. Wasn't any reason to pick up something bigger during the war. If I got into a fight I was fucked already," Ichi called out, and Malcolm echoed him as I pulled open the side door on the Quadra showing my collection of shotguns and rifles. The Nekomata was there too, but I was gonna slap anyone upside the head if they went for that. "You have to be trained to use a sniper." Hiromi didn't collect anything, but the two boys each grabbed a shotgun. "Hey Motoko, are you gonna use that voice from now on?" Hiromi asked quietly, but I laughed, which sounded pretty cool in sexy Motoko voice. "No. This was just a little trick I was playing on all of you to calm you all down for the gig. Unfortunately, sexy Motoko voice is going away," I said, relaxing my throat and stretching it a bit with a hand. "See? Back to normal." "Or?" Hiromi whined, and even Ichi and Malcolm looked disappointed. "Of course. The Major's best voice is definitely an amazing voice. I'm almost sorry to go back to my normal voice too." "All right everyone. Section 9. Move out." "Section 9? Malcolm asked, and I could see Ichi just shrug out of the corner of my eye. I ignored them of course and climbed into the back of the truck with Malcolm. Hiromi and Ichi were driving, and Malcolm was the one with experience in the back of these trucks. And so we set off. "Seriously though Motoko, that voice is pretty preem, especially since you can just switch like that." "Malcolm, it's been 10 minutes. Let it go already," I told him. I guess my plan to distract my team went a little too well. "Here it is. But seriously, the voice," he whispered to me as we bounced lightly down the road. "Just keep focused," I told him as I kneeled down. My recording of the gig started, and as the truck passed across the spot I rolled out of it, landing on my feet, and with a quick jog slowed myself down as I ran up a set of stairs into the alley. I reached the back entrance of the scav's den in moments. The sun was down. The lights were dim in this area, and no one noticed a lone truck just driving down the street. Ichi would drive around the building, parking near the front entrance until he got the call. Until then I was on my own. Looking around and being pleased there was no one around. Not even cameras or anything. A little dead spot. Probably set up like that on purpose, I realized. My eyes flashed as I started scanning. As I slipped inside the door, not even taking a second to get through. It looked like an old chop shop. A busted-up car that was half taken apart stood in the little garage area. Figures scavs would hide in such a place. No sign of them being scavs. Yet. But I already knew. I just wanted evidence on the BD. In fact, the garage bay was empty, both floors, and I made sure to look up, checking for cameras and things just to be sure. Nothing. I smiled as I crept up and looked through the windows on the garage. The scavs had a nice little living space. A few were hanging around watching TV, one had a wreath on his head. I would definitely be killing him mid-BD, he was practically begging for it. But not yet. I started counting. Getting my numbers. Unlike previous gigs, I wasn't going to kill as I go. I was going to know exactly how many scavs I needed to murder before I started. They wouldn't know I was here until it was too late. Instead of heading into their living area, I moved to the yellow utility stairs leading to the second floor overlooking the garage area. It also wrapped around leading into a second floor of the living space. No one was here. So it was literally giving me full access to everything they were doing. Following along, there was a door I checked. Small storage. Nothing immediately interesting. I continued. Down a hall to another little room that had the normal interior stairs. Since no one was up here, I checked the door. Another storage closet. Was this place all storage closets? But then I noticed the security access panel on the wall. I closed the closet door behind me as I jacked in. It was a rush. The Seicho was a whole other beast compared to the Paralin. The moment I connected, I could practically smell the lack of a netrunner protecting the place, and I broke through the ice in seconds. It was wet. One of the already solved ice walls that I had picked up from Yoko. These idiots hadn't upgraded their security in at least 20 years. With that, I had access to their security net. I also was able to send a ping through the system. Instantly lines of light erupted in my view. 10 scavs? Might as well sleep through this gig. With them all in my sights, I felt extremely comfortable moving around. I traveled across the weird upper level this place had, letting me look down at the stupid scav gonks and their day-to-day. I even zoomed in on one of them playing some game on a laptop, watching for a minute before he failed a jump and died. Pathetic. I couldn't help but whisper. The radio, TV, and general noise of people on electronics, more than enough to keep my voice hidden. But as I traveled across, I noticed it. There was another set of stairs in the corner behind me. Heading down. I had scoped out this entire area, and there was no scav shit up here. Just scavs. Some of which did have bounties. I could just start killing. No, I instead moved back across the catwalk, finding a space that would work. I jumped down to avoid some of the wandering scavs and reached the basement stairs in a quiet pomp of noise before sneaking in. The stairs led into a broken room, with the plastic strips that were often used in Night City to stop blood splatter. The fact there was a body broken open and ripped apart on the chair was evidence enough of what happened here. Okay. I got confirmation. There was no one down here. Perfect. I slipped over to the body, bypassing it until I reached a computer that was stationed nearby. It took a bit longer to break the ice on this one. It was newer, but off the shelf, without a netrunner protecting it. It only took me a minute before I was in. While I pushed a shard into the computer setup, and started downloading everything. Emails. Connections. I even hacked in, and started downloading the OS records. There would be nothing on this computer that I wouldn't have. I was reading the emails, making sure that Charles was the nasty guy I expected him to be. That this wasn't something he was being blackmailed to do. I would still kill him if he was being blackmailed, but I would feel slightly bad about it. But nope. I had read enough to confirm his participation. Then I unplugged, pocketing the shard. Time to roll. I stalked back upstairs. Thanks to ping, I already knew where everyone was. 9 scavs hanging around the living room. And Charles the Ripper behind me. Turns out he was hooked into the security net as well. Made sense. But he would be last. First Gonk died from surprise loss of the ability to breathe through all the blood flooding down his neck. I dropped his body. I didn't need to hide bodies, simply leaving him on the floor where he had been, walking towards a table to grab some grub. 500 XP gained. There wouldn't be anyone left to find them soon. Next guy was BD Wreath guy. As was tradition, I took him out just as quickly and moved on. 500 XP gained. Third and fourth died together. They were watching TV like a married couple. I had a spare knife now thanks to a Raf and Shiv member, and my knife and Shiv sunk in and tore free, killing them both in quiet gurgles. 500 XP gained. 500 XP gained. Fifth guy I didn't even sneak up on. He was sitting at a table eating and I walked right across the room to him. He noticed me only in the last moment, eyes widening before my knife swept through his throat. 500 XP gained. I ignored his fumbled attempts to talk as he fell out of his chair. The noise must have alerted someone as I saw the golden line shift closer to me. I just flipped my Shiv and tossed it. The poor number 6 scav rounded the corner, not even armed, just looking around wondering what the noise was when the knife took him in the chest. My second throw took him down instantly. 500 XP gained. Honestly, scavs were so pathetic. Barely any chrome on these ones. The first scav den was more put together than this one. Then again, from the emails I had looked through on the computer downstairs, these weren't the best of the best, just some guys meant to keep an eye on the dog, to do his dirty work. No, I would be searching for their main base once they were cleaned up. But I moved on. 7, 8 and 9 were together as well. Sitting on a couch watching some TV. I thought out my assault in an instant and moved. One knife was thrown as I leapt over the couch, slipping into a poor gonk's throat. My other hand slammed a knife into the scav on my right, slipping into his trachea. I tore it loose, uncaring about the blood that splattered over me and scav gonk number 9. 500 XP gained. 500 XP gained. The fact I had landed directly in his lap gave him about a second to start trying to react. Instinct meant he tried to push me off. I rolled with his motion, spinning a bit in his lap until we were face to face. Then he coughed. My knife slipping up and into his chin. His body shook, trying to do something as he slowly gagged and choked to death. 500 XP gained. With that done, I sent a text to the crew letting them know to move in. I hurried back through the den downstairs and then up until I reached the door to the doctor's fake Ripper clinic. Then I just walked inside. Malcolm and Hiromi were already inside, and the Ripper wasn't looking too happy with both gun-toting teens. "Oh, don't cause a fuss, Charles. We already know you're working with the scavs," I said in my sexy voice to the room. The Ripper spun to face me as I opened the door, looking horrified that I had come up from the basement. My words, and the fact I was coming out of his back room, quieted the room. Oh, and probably the blood. I was covered in a lot of blood. Hey, that's not it. They forced me. I read your emails, Charles, I assured him. Then before anyone could react, I drew my Lexington and fired. Then I walked over and fired twice more. Always double tap when possible. 500 XP gained. Cold blood skill level up. I closed my eyes and turned off the BD recording. Cold blood level 8. It was now maxed out compared to my current cool stat. Okay guys, you all ready? I asked, turning to my team. Why are you using the sexy voice again? Malcolm couldn't help but snap at me, even if he was looking more towards the dead body. I guess I like it, I said with a smile under my mask. Oh, well, I like it too. Hiromi offered her katana sheathed with a little flourish. She would look perfectly at ease if not for the slight shake to her hands. Alright, let's go through everything. Malcolm, start here, find his cyberware and box it. Hiromi, you're with Malcolm. I'll go help Ichi at the back. Yes, Motoko. Hiromi jumped to it, seeming a little too quick to listen to me. What was with that girl? For once cleaning up the place went without any issues. I ended up dragging the bodies away from where I killed them all and pushed them into a corner so they wouldn't bother the others, while Ichi ran through the base finding loot and gathering it all up. I did take a small break to grab the scavs' laptops laying around. Hopefully I could use a bit of netrunning sneakery and figure out another scav den. Honestly, we probably could use more hands next time we did this, but while everyone did start flagging an hour in, I just reminded them that the more we could drag out of here, the more eddies we would have in the end. boxes of cyberware, computer equipment, Ripper equipment, bits and bobs from the chop shop that Itchy confirmed would make some eddies if sold. In the end we filled up the truck with the most valuable stuff and left the stuff that would be harder to sell. We all climbed back into the truck and drove off. I finally pulled down the mask once the back of the truck was down and Malcolm and I were both squished into the loot we had gathered. The boy might be exhausted, but there was a shit-eating grin on his face as he rested back. We stopped at Hiromi's apartment again, all of us relaxing from the gig. "Alright, Section 9. I called out once again using my sexy voice, which had an instant effect. "Stop doing that," Ichi called back as he blushed a little, but Hiromi elbowed him instantly as she threw me a thumbs up. Malcolm just shook his head at my nonsense. "Never. It's far too fun. Excellent work everyone." "Hiromi, Malcolm, did you find anything interesting in the cyberware?" "Loads of stuff." Malcolm practically exploded. "I mean, it sucks it's all scav chrome, but holy shit, they pulled some prime chrome Motoko. You're gonna be picking some stuff yourself at this rate." Malcolm and Hiromi's reaction had Itchy and I both looking a little excited. "Okay, pull out the box of stuff, let's take a look." "Not here, you gonk," Hiromi demanded, shaking her head at me. "Let's put the boxes in the cars and drive it out of here first. There are still cameras," she reminded me, and I bowed my head in acknowledgement. "True. Let's pull the chrome boxes and load them into our rides, meet up at Vic's." "I'm gonna pass. You guys know I don't really need new chrome. My rents would get me whatever I need, Arasaka stuff. You guys take it. I'm gonna start calling buyers. Just let me know what you don't end up using. Or what you don't sell to Vic Motoko," she said, looking squarely at me with a face. Hey. I didn't deserve a face. Besides. Okay, fine, yeah, I was probably going to sell the rest of the stuff to Vic. He deserved to be well stocked, and I know he would do good with this chrome that had a terrible origin. Make up for some of the bad karma of it all. "Ooh, hey, is that a mantis blade?" A Militech infuser? Never heard of it," Malcolm said as he pulled out. "They weren't arms themselves, but more like pieces that could be installed in cyberarms." "You want the Motoko?" Malcolm asked, looking up at me with a face that was practically sparkling. "As much as I might, I'm keeping any installs to small things for now," I told him, shaking my head. "Is there any Netrunner stuff?" I think. Yeah, small box of some old decks by the looks of them. Nothing good. Oh, here you go." He pulled out a small case, and popped it open. "X-Disc." "Nice." I cheered. X-Disc when Uralware mods that would increase a Cyberdeck's RAM. More RAM. Faster punching through Gonk's security. Yoink. I snagged it away, which he chuckled at as I closed the little case and put it in a pocket. That would go with me to Vic later. Odds and ends. What the hell? These are some absolutely ancient cyberwares. I'd be surprised if they even connect to everything anymore. Malcolm grumbled as he wiped some dust off the thermos-looking canister. "Unless the canister was just used to store it. We'll pop it with Vic and see if it's any good," I reminded him, earning a pleased smile. "Motoko. Smart link," Ichi called out, waving it at me. "What, don't want it yourself?" I asked, but he just looked at me. "Only one of us is a crazy solo that clears out entire scav dens on their own. Which means I already don't need it." I teased, but he tossed it at me regardless, and I quickly grabbed it out of the air. "Fine, I'll chip it. Should be easy enough with these," I mentioned, waving my hands. I guess it was about time for me to start actually interfacing with my guns. "There is still tons more, but I don't know what all of this is." "Vex?" I asked the boys, and while I got a response from both boys that reminded me of trying to take a bone away from a wild dog. Slowly we gathered everything together, but got sidetracked by Hiromi. "Change of plans," she yelled imperiously, pointing at me. "You are my bodyguard while we make sales." Then she turned and pointed at Ichi. "And you need to drive the truck. Malcolm will be with you holding a shotgun. We can start having fun with the loot soon, but I want to get this over with. I already got a sale for some. Let's go," she called, pointing at my quadra. "You already made the sales?" "I already made some contacts thanks to your fixer. I was just waiting to know the loot. While Malcolm was loading everything up, I was already putting out feelers." You are allowed to worship my amazingness," she proclaimed, hands on her hips. "Yes, oh mighty fixer. Please allow us to help you sell the loot." "Excellent. Let's go. Malcolm, get that stuff loaded into the quadra. I already know Motoko isn't going to let us send any of it before her Ripper gets first look. Itchy. Secure the truck. I want to get some of this sold off tonight before it gets any later." Uck. I guess I'm chauffeur and bodyguard girl now. But at least Hiromi stopped barking orders at me. Dash. The sales were interesting. No, stop trying to rip me off. You wanted the canisters of flunitrazepam? You pay up for it, she snapped at the Ripper that she was selling the loot to. Of course it was only because Hiromi was Hiromi that the guy hadn't turned us away for being scavs or something. This was the third shop we had hit, and she was selling the stuff we had clept, including the Ripper's tools and chair. Apparently Charles had been a naughty boy. He had been making enough eddies with his scav friends. He had a lot of top-of-the-line stuff. Hiromi was selling it off piecemeal. We had of course stopped at Vic's first, for a surprise sale, and dropped off the boxes of actual cyberware that he had agreed to look through and pick out the choice bits for us, as well as figure out what everything was. He had even paid Hiromi, I mean us. He had paid us for a new diagnostic tool that he liked the look of. Which made me happy. I forced Hiromi to give him a discount though. She had refused at first, but I put on my sexy voice and told her it was happening, and that had stopped any attempts at refusal. Honestly, I had mostly done it to mess with Vic, but I'm glad my mature voice seems to make people listen to me. And then, despite how action-packed it was, it started getting late, and we all decided to call it a night. Ichi took his much emptier truck and would store it securely in a garage that Jotaro had originally bought to do exactly what he was doing, hiding loot. A place to store a truck full of expensive stuff until it was sold off. The money was flowing in, although we were keeping it all together for now until we were ready to divvy it out. It was a good haul, and everyone was super happy. Ichi's money problems would be solved for at least a little longer. Malcolm and Hiromi were happy. And I was just glad my friends were happy. Well, that and 5k XP closer to a level up. Dash. I'm home. I called out as I walked inside the apartment. The lights were still on, so I knew June was in. Welcome home, he called out, and I saw his hand wave from his bed as I walked into the bedroom and then into my little room. I peeled out of my new armored suits jacket with a sigh. It was funny, I was so used to wearing my leotard and jeans, that wearing something like this just felt weird. The jacket was tossed onto a dresser and then I peeled myself out of the armored top and pants. Honestly, they were a useful bit of gear, even if the looks were super basic, the sort of brown base, broken up by patches of the grey Kevlar, the only spark to them. They looked super basic. And what kind of merc or edgerunner would I be if I wore something like this all the time? I had only picked it up and wore it so my crew would do the same. I wasn't that worried about a few bullet holes, but it was a different story for my chooms. Once I was free, I grabbed one of my leotards and slipped into it, feeling much more comfortable with how free I felt wearing one. Then, without bothering to put on any pants, I walked back out and grabbed my guitar. I had honestly been pretty bored hanging around as Hiromi sold equipment to fences and rippers. So I really wanted to de-stress. Flopping onto the couch, I kicked my feet up on the armrest of it and just closed my eyes as I started striking some chords. It wasn't any particular song, no lyrics beside my humming, but I let myself relax and move away from the killing and death that made up most of my day. Dash. So you hit a scav den that was working with a ripper? Yep. From the emails, he would do work on some people, and some people would just disappear. I told June the next morning as we ate breakfast together. Disgusting. He dead? Put a bullet in him myself, I assured him as I chomped into my XXL burrito. It wasn't good, but I was feeling lazy and I didn't want to leave the apartment yet. I would eventually. After school, Hiromi was going to try and sell more stuff, but that was later this afternoon. Glad you didn't get hurt, he finally said as he finished his burrito and tossed the wrapper in the trash. They never even knew I was there. I did get another kill with a guy watching a BD though. That never gets old. June snorted at my words and patted my head a bit and I winced before kicking at him. Ow! Stupid chrome gorilla hands, go get some real skin. Do I have to buy it for you? I yelled at him as he dropped his stupid chrome hands a bit too hard on my head. He winced a little as he lifted his hands up. Sorry, Emoto. I didn't even think about it. Go see Vic. Moron. Dummy. He'll take care of you. I know you've been avoiding him. Hiromi just sold him some real skin too. Actually, did you know it comes in these weird canisters? Apparently you have to grow it. Well, it expands, I mean. It's weird stuff. I muttered, kinda waving my hands around. Vic had been happy to receive the canisters pretty cheap. Lot of people that couldn't afford it could use some skin to feel more human. June snorted at my rambling, but he got serious a moment later. Alright. Fine. I'll go see a Ripper and get some real skin. He grumbled at me as he rose up and grabbed his jacket. Good. Go right now. I want a big hug when you come home. Yeah, he mumbled tiredly, obviously done with my teasing. One yeah is enough. I corrected with a laugh as he flipped me off as he closed the door behind him. Huh? What am I gonna do now? I could poke Regina. She had said she would have a gig for me soon, but I wasn't in a rush and she said she would let me know. I didn't really want to go try and track down the next scav base from the info I got out of the den right now. So I guess just lay around? I looked over at my mess of mechanical parts. At my laptop full of programming I was still working on. That seemed like work though. I reached over to grab my guitar and sat up. Music time. I did take a break from music to do some more programming, but funnily enough while listening to the radio a song came on that I liked and I ended up grabbing my guitar and playing along. I fell into a habit. I was listening to the radio and whenever a song I liked came on, I would sing along and play with it. Of course I would switch over to different stations. It was kinda hard to play electronic music on my guitar after all, which is part of the reason I wanted my music box to be programmed. I did have a lot of projects on my hands, but I was having fun, so that's all that matters. Of course I was in the middle of singing along when the front door suddenly burst open. I looked. Hiromi looked back. I looked. Hiromi grinned. Hiromi, I yelled at her as I swiftly tried to hide the guitar from her as she pounced on me. Motoko, she yelled back in delight as she started laughing at me. I wasn't blushing. It was just embarrassing. No one besides June was supposed to know. Hiromi, you need to learn to knock. How could I? I heard my Motoko out in the hall singing her heart out. I had to rush in and see. She proclaimed as she continued hugging me as I tried to peel her off and put the guitar away. I quickly glanced over at the radio and it shut off with a quick thought. Or, Motoko. Finally managing to put the guitar on its stand, I reached down to the giggling girl and put both hands on her cheeks, forcing her to meet my eyes. You saw and heard nothing, I told her firmly, even using my sexy voice. She just grinned. That meant she agreed, right? You should have heard it, Itchy. It was so preem. Motoko was totally jamming out standing on her couch. No one will find any of your bodies, I promised as I continued to hide my face against Itchy's truck. The cool steel just barely kept me from overheating. She had promised not to tell anyone. She tried to make me promise not to tell, but I mean, come on. Of course I will. Death. I whispered. Motoko, when did you start playing the guitar? I don't think you did before the coma or anything, Malcolm asked, ignoring Itchy and Hiromi both trying to embarrass me more. It's all Hiromi's fault. What? How? You made me sing during the Nomad barbecue. I realized I wasn't any good at it, so I decided to start practicing. Wait. Motoko, did you really get so embarrassed about your bad singing during the barbecue that you secretly went out and bought a guitar to learn some music? Hiromi asked, suddenly staring at me with her big old green eyes. It wasn't a secret. June knew. Motoko, you are the cutest ever, she whispered, barely hiding the massive grin behind her hands. No, I denied, but Hiromi was soon sage nodding at me, Itchy joining in. The jerk. You got so embarrassed about singing you went and bought a guitar to learn and practice? Itchy asked for a moment. Cute. I'm dangerous. Not cute, I demanded, stomping my foot to prove my danger. It didn't work. You weren't that bad at singing, Motoko. You didn't have to get so cute about it, Hiromi said, and I frowned. I'm not bad at singing. You weren't really great either, Motoko. Hiromi offered gently as she walked over and threw an arm over my shoulder. But it's cute you have a weak point. Weak point? Me? Never. Weak points are where you get hit for massive damage. I refuse. I walked over to the quadra and popped the door, and after a moment it was on the radio blaring to life. And then right in front of my crew I started belting out the song alongside the radio. A minute later, as the song came to an end, I was breathing a little heavily. My face was absolutely bright red, but my chums were all staring in shock. That was actually pretty preem. Holy shit, Malcolm said, looking at me in a bit of shock. Motoko. When what? You didn't know how to sing like a week ago? What happened? Hiromi asked, marching forward and grabbing my arms and shaking me a bit. I learned. I realized I didn't know how to sing at the camp, so I made sure to spend some time learning. Turns out, I'm pretty good at music in general. I just needed some practice. I told her, lying my ass off. Thank you, gamer system. I would be a talentless hack without you. Please forgive me for not telling anyone about your wonder. Uck. Hiromi coughed like someone had just punched her in the chest as she took a few stuttered steps back until she hit the truck. How can she be so perfect at everything? Itchy. Don't look at me, Hiromi. I've grown completely used to Motoko making me look like a gonk at everything, he said, sighing as he walked over and joined her beside the truck, both of them just sort of staring off into nothing. Hiromi at the ground, Itchy at the roof. Rude. I muttered to myself. I don't know, Toko. This is kinda crazy. Malcolm spoke up, still standing beside me as he looked over our chums. I mean, it's one thing to be good at fighting, or sneaking, or singing, but you are just good at all of them. I just practice a lot. I argue, feeling awkward, that I was basically cheating in my ability to learn new things. Besides, we aren't here to pick apart Motoko's hobbies. I remind them, pointing at the truck. We are here to make some eddies. She's right, Ichi agreed, coming back to reality at the mention of money, as he stopped staring at the ceiling like a zombie. All right, Section 9, on your feet, let's get this taken care of. Hiromi, that means you, he said. Eh? I couldn't help but gasp out as I pointed at Ichi. What did you just say? I demanded, shocked. Section 9. It's what you called us yesterday, remember? Ichi said, and then to my horror, he smiled. You're teasing me. I don't know what you're talking about. Come on, Section 9. Let's get moving. He called out, and the traitors all followed after. My chums. Betrayal. Hey, you can't use that. Section 9 is. It was just a joke. Nope, we all decided. Section 9 it is. Come on, Motoko, load up. Hiromi needs to show up in a preem ride to make the sales. He reminded me as Hiromi already settled into my quadra. My chums were teasing me. I slipped into the quadra as Ichi and Malcolm started driving off, literally ignoring me as they left. You guys are being mean. I complained to Hiromi as I started following. Or, is a little teasing too much? Well, now you know how we feel after you keep changing your voice. Hiromi mentioned, poking me in the side. I thought it was cool. It was very cool. Yes, but don't tease us if you can't handle getting teased back, she said, reaching up and pressing a finger against my cheek. Where did you even get Section 9 from anyways? Some TV show or something? No? I denied. Nailed it. For some reason my denial didn't seem to convince Hiromi though. Gonk. I pouted and refused to say anything else about Section 9 as we drove to another ripper that was willing to buy some stuff.